If you're looking to buy a PC in 2019 for under $500 that can handle gaming, content creation, and basic tasks, this build right here offers great price to performance and can easily handle games at 1080p. Although it packs some older hardware, it can still keep up with a lot of modern systems that are built today. Today I'm going to go through the different parts, benchmark it, and finally give my thoughts on this amazing $500 PC build. If you're new to the channel and want to see more tech content, subscribe down below and hit the notifications icon so that you never miss out on a new video. So first, let's go over the specs and why I chose these parts. Our CPU is the 4-core and 4-thread i5-4670K clocked at 4 GHz, a 200 MHz overclock that should be achievable even with the stock cooler. The Haswell architecture has really aged well, and it's a great alternative to buying cheaper Ryzen processors, and these typically run for about $80 on eBay, and if you'd like to buy any of the parts, the links will be down in the description below. Now for your motherboard, it doesn't matter a whole lot on what you choose, just make sure it's an LJ1150 board, and you can generally find these on eBay for around $60. I'd recommend an Asus or Gigabyte one, but if you like the aesthetics of a one in particular, it's up to you. My motherboard of choice is the Gigabyte GA Z87X-HD3 that retails on eBay for around $100. One of the upsides of Intel is that it doesn't require fast RAM, so I went with 2 sticks of 4GB Corsair Vengeance DDR3 clocked at 1600 MHz. I was able to overclock it to 2133 in the BIOS while still maintaining the tight cast latency of 11. If you don't have the extra money to spend on RAM, you can generally find a 2x4 kit of DDR3 for around $35 on eBay. My CPU cooler here is an OEM 120mm AIO that I bought off someone off Hardware Swap, and while it's nothing spectacular, it just gets the job done. I bought it a few weeks ago and I was actually looking to put it in a build, and so this matched it perfectly. It doesn't really have much overclocking headroom, but it still maintained the 200 MHz overclock just fine. You can find a cheap air cooler for $10 to $30 on eBay, something like a 212 Evo, or maybe something like a stock cooler will probably work just fine. To pair with our 4670K, I have an RX 580 with 8GB of VRAM, and an RX 580 offers really good price to performance, and while not as cost effective as maybe say an RX 470, for example, it still holds up in modern titles very well in 1080p, as you're about to see. The lower end models for the RX 580 8GB run for around $150 on eBay. For storage, I didn't really spend too much on that area, so for $20 each, I was able to pick up one 120GB SSD and a 500GB hard drive. Now you can always opt to get more SSD storage if you want, or even spend more money to get a larger hard drive or a larger SSD. To power all of my components, I bought a Thermaltake Tough Power 750W 80+ gold power supply for just $35. Now obviously no one's going to be selling that exact PSU for that cheap on eBay, so while eBay does have a good selection of $50 PSUs that maybe aren't as good, I really do have to recommend r/hardware swap on Reddit to buy a cheaper and higher quality PSU. People there really know how to price their hardware correctly, and it's not based off sentiment or value when they first bought it, it's more based off market value or performance. Now you may be thinking, what is this lovely looking PC case with a full tempered glass side panel and a front strip of blue LEDs? And as appealing as it looks, the DIY PC Diamond F1 case is a really poor choice, and I can't really recommend it even though it's only priced at $30 on Newegg. There are just so many problems with it I encountered. Starting off with the power supply, the case requires a smaller PSU, and regular ATX PSUs won't actually fit unless you drill out the rivets holding the drive cage and bend it back, which at that point means you can't put in the 3.5-inch drive into the PC anymore. Another big problem is that the fans don't ever spin that fast, so not that much heat is dissipated either. And my last big gripe with the case is that there's not even a hole to thread the CPU cable through at the top, which meant that I needed to insert it towards the bottom and have it in front of my motherboard, which didn't look too good to say the least. So I really can't recommend it, and it would probably be worth it to find another case or pay extra just to get a better case. So the total comes up to be $495, which is just under our $500 price point. Now obviously this doesn't include peripherals, but the PC is still really good value for the money. Enough talk about the PC, let's go ahead and get into the benchmarks. First off, I tested 4 games, those being Overwatch, Apex Legends, CSGO, and Fortnite. Overwatch brought a very playable 134 FPS average with 1% lows of 102 at ultra settings 1080p. Fortnite ran well with a 77 average at epic settings, and with 1% lows and 0.1% lows of 32 and 7 respectively. Apex Legends continued the streak with an 85 FPS average at near max settings, with 1% and 0.1% lows of 50 and 55 respectively. CSGO ran buttery smooth as expected with a 211 FPS average and max settings with 1% and 0.1% lows of 95 and 20. Now for some synthetic benchmarks, starting off with Cinebench R15, the 4670K scored 610 in the multi-threaded test and 159 in the single-threaded test. 3D Mark Firestrike brought pleasing results with an 11,028 score overall, 14,775 graphics score, 8,021 physics score, and a combined score of 4,715. Unigine Heaven with the Extreme preset at 1920 by 1080 gave us a score of 1,375 with a 54.6 average FPS, and the BMW 27 Blender Render benchmark took 5 minutes and 40 seconds with a GPU compute and 12 minutes and 39 seconds with the CPU. Overall, I think the GPU and the CPU pair really well together and don't really bottleneck each other, and while gaming, the CPU is sitting at around 30% while the GPU usually at around 100, and I'm not sure if this is suitable for streaming or recording as the CPU only has 4 cores and 4 threads, but it's probably possible if you turn the game settings down. During our Unigine Heaven benchmark, the CPU was sitting at about 45 degrees Celsius and 25% usage, and the GPU at full load was maxing out at around 70 degrees Celsius. On a more CPU-bound render, like the Blender CPU render, it got a little toasty with the CPU hitting about 82 degrees throughout the full 13 minutes, but that was still within the limits that Intel recommends. Overall, this is a really balanced system for someone who just wants to do some casual gaming, maybe a bit of content creation, and just basic web tasks as well. There's always the option to upgrade into an i7 like the 4790K or the 4770K if you want those extra threads maybe for streaming or a little more heavy-duty creative work. The RAM can also be upgraded to 16 gigabytes if you would like. You can always upgrade it to 2x8 or 4x4 as the motherboard is most likely going to have 4 RAM slots. The RX 580 really stands its ground and holds up in a lot of modern titles, as well as being at an affordable price. I believe this is just about the best $500 rig that you can buy right now, and if I didn't already have my own system, I would definitely be using this one instead. So that's going to wrap up today's video. If you did enjoy this $500 build guide, be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe down below. Turn on the notification icon and, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Turn on notifications so that you never miss a video. And as always, hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys next time.